Welcome, welcome. This is a photograph of the Columbia Gorge Museum, about 45 minutes outside of Portland, Oregon, but just on the Washington side of the river. You can see my family, my 9-year-old, my 7-year-old, and my wife and my mother-in-law is up ahead too. They're all going in. It's a cold 40 degree but sunny December 1st of 2024. It's right after Thanksgiving. Now we chose to go here instead of like OMSI, right? Oregon Museum of Science and Industry, which we're members of, big fans. It can be crowded there, right? Especially on a Sunday right after Thanksgiving. School's back in session. You're going to learn some about science, and you're also going to catch a cold. So we took advantage of the nice weather, sunny weather, I should say, and we drove out the gorge. So I want to show that on a map. So we had to get away from all these coffee shops. That's what these blue flags are. And we drove out I-84, and it's about 45 minutes. Well, let's see. You go past, right, some of the popular tourist spots on the gorge, right? There's the Vista House. There's Multnomah Falls. There's the fish hatchery, right? There's the Cascade Locks, right? There's a lot we could have stopped and done, and someday I'll do a video on those too. But we wanted to go out to this museum, which we've never been to before. And actually, I didn't even know it existed. The real plan was to actually go out to the Columbia Gorge Discovery Center. And we realized it was like an hour-and-a-half drive, and I was like, shoot, I wish it wasn't so far away. And I realized, well, there's this one called the Columbia Gorge Museum, which is half the distance. So it's like, well, maybe let's go there. And I think in my mind I've even confused these two places together. And I was like, well, what? Wait, there's two of these places? I'm sure they're different. I'm sure they're both lovely. But we went to the one that was close. And afterwards, we went into the town of Stevenson, and we got a little lunch. And I actually saw Prince there. Well, the artist formerly known as Prince. All right, let's learn something about the Columbia River. Now, I'm a photographer. Most of my subscribers are photographers. If you're not a photographer, right, if you're somebody who just lives in Portland or visiting Portland, and that's why you're watching this video, just bear with us for a second. I do show these like credits just so people know what I'm doing photographically. So very quickly, December 1st, my family at the Gorge, Stevenson, Washington. I'm shooting HP5, right? It's a black and white film. My exposure index was around like 1600, 3200, but I'm metering by eye only. I'm using an M-mount rangefinder camera. This one was a Leica M6 TTL 0.58, but without the battery. I only used one lens, a 35mm pre-spherical Summilux. I developed at home in undiluted D76H accidentally at 60 degrees Fahrenheit. I woke up in the morning and didn't pay attention to my temperature, which meant I had extended way out because I'd shot at like 3200. And I ended up with actually pretty weak negatives, and I got upset with myself for not being more careful. But the lesson really is just don't develop first thing in the morning. My processor is a Highland TAS for Jobo. There's my scanner setup and my software. Okay. But yeah, we're shooting 35 millimeter film, 2 rolls, and I've edited down some. Now, when we got out there, we were the only people in the parking lot. I actually thought, oh no, this is closed. There were 0 cars. Like, not even, you expect like staff or employees. Nothing. So whoever worked here today must have like walked or biked, or maybe they live inside this place. But we were the only people. And I tried to get the sun shining behind the flag, but I missed by a little bit. Right? It's like, check out the sun here. I hope it didn't burn a hole in my shutter. Now here, my boys were in the lobby, and they're already very excited about something. And my older son, Ellery, has found something that he really wanted to take a picture of. And it's cool to see our kids this excited, right? About a museum, right? You're always nervous about like, oh, taking my kids to a museum. But they were excited about Elf. So let me see here. Elf is showing December 7th at 3 p.m. And adult admission is $10 and child admission is $5. I bet it includes probably some like hot chocolate, right? Because the coffee here was by donation, right? It's that kind of place. It seems to be, they want you to have a good time. So yeah, it's a little expensive to see Elf, but I think we should all go. Maybe put it in the comments if you're going to go. That would be fun. Now, they take cash. This is a 1909 cash register. Has 4 drawers. I don't know what that's about. But it is beautiful. Now this is George Washington here. It's kind of interesting. This is a painting of a painting with a flag draped over it, right? It's like, that's a famous painting. I'm not a historian here. You're going to learn that many times over in this video. But right, it's like that famous photo of George Washington and with this like beautiful American flag draped over the painting. And it's a painting of that, right? So, but my son George, he's always interested. Oh, look at this. Look at that. He found his name. George. I hadn't noticed that until right now. But I knew that's why he was interested in this photo. Right, he's always interested in other people who have the name George, which it turns out, right, especially if you think historically, there are a lot of famous Georges. Now, I think you saw from like the outside of this building that it has lots of big windows and glass. So the light in here was pretty interesting. Now, George and my wife, Barbara, they're looking out onto this giant structure, which is like it looks like a water wheel or something, but it's for catching fish, right? It has like a net system. So you can just spin it and scoop fish out of the river. Or catch soccer balls, right? And there was a stairway, so you could go up towards like the middle of it and kind of look down into it. Now here I think they're showing me how the people that used to live on the river would catch fish. And this is my kind of fishing, right? If I could, because you can often see big fish in the river. So I like this idea of just having a really long pole and just scooping the fish up. So I think I'm gonna try this. This might be on my Christmas list this year. That and whatever he's wearing, this garment, right? They probably come together as a set. Now this is like the crank for that like water wheel that catches fish. You know, something you risk when you're a photographer is you can spend a lot of time looking for photographs and then not actually learn very much while you're there. But yeah, but then you get to come back and look at photos and maybe learn something. I was trying to get my son Ellery right here in this gap. I sort of did. A little person in there. I saw this photograph when I was like 12 in one of the Washington, D.C. museums, where it was sort of playing with this like scale trick of making like a tiny little person, right? Make it look like there was like a tiny person in the photo. It kind of still influences me. This was, right, me trying to be an artiste, and it's okay. My mother-in-law, Joan, she was amazed with the structure. And then I noticed this soccer ball. You gotta wonder a little bit. And that's what she's doing here. Wondering. Yeah. Really nice light coming through that window. I didn't go out there planning to like take family photos, right? But it sort of was a good opportunity because the light in the building was so nice. I mean, yeah, I'm taking a picture of like a big metal thing. Right, there's that era of photography where like instead of taking pictures of people and portraits and pictorialism, like all of a sudden people started just shooting pictures of big metal machines. You sort of get why, right? It's like, it is fun with black and white film. And this place had plenty. I mean, what is this thing? I never really did figure it out, right? Again, I'm just so into taking my pictures that I'm not learning what I'm supposed to be learning in the museum. But look at all these thick ropes. I mean, this thing turns, that giant wheel, right? This thing turns. And then like this is like you can put, I would guess, fire? Right? You can put wood in there, coal in there. Let's see. Yeah, so they had this, airplane hanging from the ceiling. Here's that fisherman again. Is there a fish in his net? No. All right, we got the 9th Aero Squadron. But this is back to that thing again, that big metal thing. Right, so I imagine you open this up and you put some source of fuel that you burn. And then it's going to turn this wheel. And then what's the wheel going to do? Is this like I mean, it's not part of the dam. I don't know what this is. Now, we watched a movie about the gorge. I didn't take any pictures in there. It was a theater. It was dark. The Richard Dick Weaver multimedia room. I did not try to go in there. I should have. It looks like the handle is slightly, right? It looks unlocked. If you're into quilts, this was a great place to go. If you're into mountain lions. Now, I've seen mountain lions. I used to live in Colorado, and I've seen a few. Have I seen? I know I've seen two. The first time I saw one, it was in the city of Breckenridge in the morning, and it was a little one. And it didn't seem to even notice me. We were both in a back alley. I was on my way to get a cup of coffee. And I remember thinking, I was like, wow, if that's, if they're not as big as I thought. Okay, I've seen 3. And then the second time, I heard what I thought was a child screaming bloody murder. And I started going towards it because I thought this was somebody in need. But it turned out to be a mountain lion in heat. And I didn't see it that time. I figured it out before I got there. And then the third time I saw a big one, like I don't know, I want to say a big mama mountain lion, but it was enormous. And I'll never forget that. It popped up. I scared it. And it ran, and it leaped over a river. Okay, I'll move him back on track. Is there a God? This is a good question. It was inside the glass, and I couldn't open the book. So, cliffhanger. Now, as you'll see as we get further into the photos, there's a lot of religion going on, and yeah, we'll get there. Again, I'm going to be your tour guide, but I don't know anything about this, so I'll have to go back. Or maybe you'll have to go back. I don't know who this is. I just took a picture. I know he went to had a lot of schooling. That's the one thing I remember about him. Yeah, so this area has there's a lot to mine, and people found black opal. And if you've ever seen black opal, right, it's like if there was anything on earth that was going to make you believe in God, it's black opal. And again, if you're into sort of like tapestries and rugs and towels and right. Now this was a little room where you could come and sit in like theater seating and then stare at this painting. Here's the painting. And I'm not sure I've seen that before, right? Like a a theater room to look at a painting. I like the idea of it. And the realism of that painting is something. Now, this is one of their modern art installations. This one too. They had a nice gallery of beautiful paintings. And again, I wish you could see this. The way that the light bounces and reflects off of the flag and makes the stripes and stars glow. All right, it is 40 degrees, and my kids, who are in shorts, they want to go outside because there's a lot of interesting things to see out there. And I brave up and I go with them. Right, you can see the river right there. Right, and it was this sort of like epic day with like there's clouds, but the sun was shining through. Right, and it's that southern summer sun. Right, so it's got that angle to it. But yeah, here are my kids in shorts. They're in shorts because I wear shorts. I wear shorts all year round. If you ever see somebody in shorts with a camera, it's probably me. This old train engine. The Spokane, Portland, and Seattle Railroad Yard? RY? It'll be interesting if people who know a lot more about history chime in on this. You know, my son Ellery here, he has his camera and he sees this big thing and he says, "Oh, that looks cool." Right? They are my kids. A very cool caboose. I don't know if they were supposed to. There weren't, there were signs in places that were like, "Don't climb on, don't get on," but the caboose didn't have that. So I was like, "Okay, get up there. Photo time." Yeah, my kids don't always want to be in photos, right? But this was, they like it when it's an actually cool thing, like a old train caboose. And then whatever this thing is, probably for pulling logs or something. My kids, I mean, it was 40 degrees and windy. My wife and my mother-in-law couldn't even make it out here. They're going to see these photos and be like, "Oh, that's what we didn't see." And I'm going to show quite a few pictures here, but it all happened in like 5-10 minutes, right? We were moving really quick because it was cold. Now, this isn't my favorite photo of the set because, like, I'm always going to choose one of my family. But if I had to pick one that didn't have my family, right, I sort of like this as a photo. You know, the admission was $30 for the family. That's pretty good. Very reasonable. And then they had, you know, this is, what is this actually? I think that's an upside down mushroom. And what is this? What's this thing back here? Is it a deflated soccer ball? Because I don't think so. I feel like they must do some like education days with kids or something. Now they did have like an old mine that you could only go about 20 feet in, 30 feet in, which we did, and it was too dark to take a picture. But this is like the little train that comes out of it. And there's my cold son being a good sport. But then one of the highlights now is we found a bunch of old vehicles and the doors were open and the interiors were nice, right? The seats on this thing, I mean, it was like plush and soft. Yeah, so my son George got to drive. Well, you know, drive all these things. I mean, look how happy he is. Right? This is fun. Now this thing must be for moving giant logs. There is a clue in the picture. Now, I felt like I needed to get some just like standard outside pictures. Try to get the clouds, right? The reflection more in the window. My son bracing in the sun and the cold wind. Everybody else is already in the car warming up at this point. And then I'm down to my last photo here, one more after this. All right, we went into like a couple minutes away, this little town of Stevenson, and we had lunch. And look who joined us. And then here in the photo, right, this is a town of Stevenson. The restaurant here is the Big City Grill. I do recommend. There are other good choices in the town. All right, so this is the third video in a series where I'm getting out into the city of Portland and in the surrounding area. Right, this is for people that maybe live here or visiting here or curious about Portland. Right, I think the last 5 years for many people that even live here, right, we've sort of stayed home and we don't quite know what's out there. And so this is a series to sort of rediscover and to learn a lot more about the city of Portland. Okay, take care.